So we're going live. And welcome to Let's Chat with Simon and Tony. You're not going to believe this, Simon. We're at episode 32. Can you believe that, Simon?
No, I can't. That's fantastic. And as I said to you, we're only getting started, Tony.
Yeah, wait till we get to the ton, the 100.
Exactly.
Simon, can you just put your sound up just a tad?
My sound?
Yeah, just a sound, just up a fraction.
Okay, just bear with me.
Yep, because we want to be able to hear everyone's your insightful views. All right, so we've got a really good show on today. And Simon, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. For those that don't know me, my name is Simon Bowden, and I'm an international marketing business coach with 25 years experience, which makes me a master coach. My mission is always to help clients identify their aspirations and visions, strengths and blind spots, help them make informed decisions and take actions when needed to ultimately fast track them towards their personal goals. My coaching caters for executives and directors to entrepreneurs, small business owners and beyond. Whatever your situation, I'll help you build on your strengths and get clear on how to create a profitable future. I love what I do and I'm passionate about helping people succeed, Tony, as you know.
Beautiful. Thank you, Simon.
That's all right,
what
Tony.
do I do? I help individuals and business owners via customized retreats, workshops and consultations to maximize their feelings of vibrance, purpose, happiness, health, and success. Now, Simon, let me read out our mission for today. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to educate and engage with our audience, lively discussions with experts to gain their valuable experiences, tips, and benefits of the business and well-being practices they can offer. Now, let's get back to our show. So that's what we do. So what's been happening in your neck of the woods, Simon? I hear that in Sydney and Queensland they've had lots of floods. What's been happening in your neck of the woods?
Well, I must admit, to be perfectly honest, I feel for those people in Sydney and in Queensland. I think it's been very hard for them. Not only have they had to deal with COVID over the last 2 years, now they've got the floods to deal with as well. So I really feel for them. My heart goes out to them. And from a Melbourne point of view, I mean, we had a little bit of rain yesterday for the first time in a month, I think. I mean, I'm looking out the window now and everything looks extremely dry. So unfortunately, all the rain is going to one place. It's not coming here. So I don't know what it's like down where you are, Tony. What's the weather been like down there?
Well, we've been having some rain. It's good. We got really good weather here. Like it's been 20 most of the days. We did have a bit of wild and woolly winds though. And did you know, Simon, on Wednesday we had a blackout. We had a communications, internet and mobile blackout. Everything went black in Tasmania. So
wow,
I'm glad we're back up again.
Someone turned the light off as they left.
A dull moment, is there, Simon? What's that, Simon?
I was going to say, did someone turn the light off when they left?
They must have. I think someone left the switch on, right? But today, we've got a special guest. I got my beautiful wife, Sharada. And Sharada has got an amazing story to tell us. So perhaps what I might just do is, Sharada, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and a little bit of your story coming to Australia.
Well, hello everybody, and I'm delighted to be here. This is a wonderful show, and it just allows us all to have some fun and some insights and some skills to move forward in whichever aspect we need help with. So I came out here to Melbourne actually in 1975 on Australia Day, and I can remember that day so clearly because when I stepped out the plane and as I was driven from Tullamarine Airport, everything was so dry, and I'm thinking, wow, what have I gotten myself into? Like semi-desert sort of a yeah, look. And then the other thing that really kind of like surprised me because see, in Malaysia, like our shops kind of like they open almost 24/7. And then when I passed through Melbourne, it's like, I think it was something like 5:30 in the afternoon, and the city was almost deserted. And that even gave me a bit more of a kind of like concern, like, what am I coming to? It's supposed to be a big country with all sorts of things happening, and everything is shut at 5:30. So
So how old were
yeah.
you, Sharada, if you don't mind? How old were you when you came to Australia?
I came out here when I was just over 18. And
Wow.
well, see, in Malaysia, we have this very interesting political system where it's very, very prejudiced against the non-Malays. But nobody is allowed to say anything because if anybody opens their mouth, they get thrown to jail. So nobody says anything about the policies that are very, very prejudiced. And myself being a Malaysian Thai, actually, I am, because both my parents are Thais. And so I belong to the minority group in Malaysia. And then after we had our year 10 exam, that's kind of like a national exams in Malaysia, and everybody gets assessed nationally. And then I had to have five distinctions to go into what is equivalent to year 11 and 12 in Victoria. I had four distinctions and a credit, so that brought me to the count of 11 instead of 10. So I said, well, the other Chinese friends, they work harder, they're smarter than I am, so they got to go and do their science stream, which I've done up to year 10. And then they offered me a place to learn history and economics and geography. And I have no interest whatsoever in those subjects. But I thought better to be in school than to be in the chicken farm looking after chickens and cows and pigs. So I took that option. And then one of my teachers, she just came back from doing her studies. I think she was doing her master's in education from Australia. And then she was talking to me and she said, why don't I try and apply to study in Australia? And lo and behold, the stars were shining in my direction because that was the time where Whitlam was around and he proclaimed that education should be free and available to everybody. And fortunately, it included me. So I was fortunate enough to come to Australia, and I did my year 12 in Australia in Elwood High School. And that was such an eye opener for me, really coming from such a different culture because the students in the class, the teacher would be teaching in front, they would have their feet on their desk, they were having conversations with each other, and the teacher was virtually talking to me. So that was another eye opener in terms of coming from a very, I suppose, subdued culture. And also, the other thing for me when I was growing up, being a Buddhist as well, that I grew up in a very, very kind of like mindful way. And I had a grandmother who was phenomenal. She was the one that brought me up when I was little, and she was very spiritual. She meditates, she goes to the temple, and I was so happy to tag along with her anywhere. The other children would be interested in playing outside the temple. I was more interested in sitting with her and listening to the scripture talks and meditating with her. And so I grew up with that as part of my everyday practices. And so I started meditating from very young, probably, I think my first formal meditation learned was when I was 13. I went with my brother, who was older, to the temple and was officially initiated into the Buddhist meditation. And I've been doing that ever since. And the thing that I find most helpful with meditation is we get to connect with ourselves. We get to kind of like turn off from the distractions from outside that, that triggers us in so many different ways. That could be sadness, frustrations, anger, and all of that. When we make time and we schedule time to be silent, to just, tune in within us and connect with what I call our divine spark, or our inner self, or whatever it is, we actually connect with that part of us that's so still and so filled with joy. And so as I was growing up, my kind of like there is a part of me that wanted so much for everybody, every human, to have that opportunity to experience that part of themselves that is so beautiful, so beautiful. And for me, I have not found any other way of finding that and experience that part of myself other than through meditation. And so that's why I'm a bit partial to meditation.
That's amazing. So if I could ask a few questions, Sharada. You've got an absolute amazing background, and I sort of think, what would have happened if you hadn't have come to Australia? But we're so glad to have you here in Australia because you're an inspiration to many. But what drew you into meditation?
Well, there is, I suppose you could say that there was just something within me that was drawn to it. Even like I said, even when I was very young, like I tagged along with my grandma. She was taking me to the temples ever since I could walk. And we always walk to the temple together. And so there's always a part of me that's I think naturally drawn to it. You could say, maybe past life, maybe whatever, but there is a part of me that's always been drawn to that. And so when I came to Australia, the amazing thing is, it's almost like, for me, the universe almost like paved to support that natural longing for meditation and experiencing what the ancient called the Buddhist tradition is called the void, and the Hindus call it the oneness with God and all those things. And when I came to Melbourne, I was fortunate enough to meet a very, very famous Indian saint, and he was out here on a tour in Melbourne, and I was here, and so I got to meet him. And then he also gave me the opportunity to reconnect with that stillness and that joy within me. And and to me, it's like it gave me this understanding why in the ancient times all these people were flocking to the great masters like Jesus and Buddha and Confucius and Krishna, because in their presence, somehow or rather, they help to still our minds. It's like I remember the first time when Swami Muktananda walked into the hall. It's like my chattering mind disappeared, and I was just in this total silence. Simon, total silence. And in that silence is where we really experience the wonder of who we are with such clarity and such joy.
So from a very young age, going with your grandmother to the temple and meditating, I suppose over those years, there would be many spiritual leaders that have impressed you and had a big influence on you. Can you perhaps touch on that for us?
Yeah, well, we have some wonderful Buddhist abbots in the temple, and so so it's like, so I suppose in a way I've been blessed because they've always been there. And then of course there is the teachings of the Dalai Lama, and then there was the wonderful teachings of that wonderful Vietnamese master. And then I was also interested in Yogananda, that very famous, you know, Indian teacher that went across to America. And so all of their teachings, and I had an older brother who also was interested in spiritual things, and he goes to Sunday school. And then because I'm a girl, I'm not allowed to go to Sunday schools. I had to stay home. But then he was such a lovely brother. He would come home and he would share the lovely teachings with me at home. And so in all, you know, I'm truly blessed in terms of the people around me and the teachers that my brother brought home with him through their teachings and shared them with me.
Yeah.
Honey, there are some spiritual leaders around now. Who do you think influences you the most now?
Well, for me, I think that there is a person called Sadhguru from the Isha Foundation, and he is based in south of India. And the reason why, for me, he is the most relevant spiritual master now is because he deals with now. He's not dealing with you know things that are happening, like don't wear your, you know, you don't take transportation because you know it's against the spiritual thing. And to me that's not relevant, because we live in the modern day where you fly on aeroplanes and you go in cars, you turn on the electricity, you have light, you have everything of that sort. And Sadhguru is a spiritual master that teaches us in the now on how to manage our inner state and how to look at life from the perspective that, you know, we've only got one life. So he's not interested in what happens in heaven or what happens in hell. He says that our responsibility as a human being is to live our lives fully right now, and we don't need to concern about what happens after we die or what happens before we came to this lifetime. He said they're not relevant. Just focus on living joyfully with love, with compassion for one another, and to do the best that we can. And he's very focused on the land, Mother Earth, that we need to look after Mother Earth, because that is what made this body. You know, the food that we eat is what sustains his body. If there's no earth, there's no us. And that's the thing that I like about him. And he also makes sure that we understand the importance of meditation, the importance of eating well, and doing yoga and all those things. So he looks at the whole picture. He's not just into, you know, running away to the Himalayas and, you know, disappearing. He is teaching us how to live fully with each other with love, compassion, cooperation, and harmony. And that's why I like him a lot.
Fair enough. I want to take you back, Sharada, if I may, to when you were 18 and you decided to come to Australia. It must have been hard leaving your family at that stage. And I suppose what I wanted to do is touch on what challenges did you have when you came, and how did you overcome those?
Well, I am a typical rebel, really. I mean, because
No,
Sharon and I are black rams.
because none of my family, you know, I mean, Malaysia is a very conservative culture. And, you know, and it's like none of my family say, oh, wonderful. You want to go to Australia? Go. Every single one of them said, you, a young girl, knowing nobody, what are you going to do there? How are you going to manage? The only person, the only person that said to me, go, was my older brother. Excuse me. And he was the only one. He said, you go after your dreams. Don't let anybody else tell you differently. And so I had his support in my heart, and that's that's how I came with my suitcase to Australia. And it's like it's a totally different you know, culture altogether. And you know, for me it was very difficult, because I am more of a, like, what you could say, very cooperative, very respectful, because that's part of our culture. And I think that the meditation part of it really helped me, because there was nothing else available to me. when I came to Australia, other than myself and my enthusiasm for life and my rebellious nature that nothing is going to make me go back to Malaysia again. So that was kind of like the driving force of allowing me to be here. My meditation, my inner knowing, in a way that, my life is my responsibility, and I've always taken that on board in everything that I did. And so, after that, I got married, and then I did my nursing, and then of course I also was very interested in natural healing, because in Malaysia, where I came from, the doctors are very minimal, because they're kind of like, they're about 2 hours away, and there's mostly what we call the village doctors, and we are um very respectful of their skills. Because I'll give you one example. Like, there is this one, I must have been maybe about maybe 6 or 7 then. There was one young man. He was in his 20s, and he's into this modern medicine thing, when you're just exposed to Western medicine kind of thing. So he fell off his motorbike, and he injured his thigh bone, and he was taken to the hospital in the city and everything. And like months later, there was still like a gaping hole in his thigh, and it was passing and was not getting better. Antibiotics and everything didn't work. And so his parents kind of like persuaded him to go and see my grand uncle. He was the village medicine man. And I remember I was playing around in front of his house, and then I was watching this guy come in to see my grand uncle. And then my grand uncle grabbed some herbs from here and there, and he mashed it up. And then I was very curious. I was watching this very, very intently. And then he he looked around, because there's no chairs, there's nothing, you all sit on the floor, right? So he looked around, and he saw a piece of rag, mind you, a piece of rag. He ripped it up into little bands, and then he put his little poultices with the herb in it. He took it to the young man, he wrapped it around with this dirty rag, and then he told the young man, okay, you go home now, make sure you don't wet it for a week, mind you, 1 week of this dirty old rag with these herbs in it. And he sent the man off. And I was very curious. I was very curious. And then I heard later on, like probably about a couple of weeks later, that the thing that hasn't healed for months was totally healed from some herbs and a dirty old rag. So that impressed me very much. And then there are times when somebody was very sick and nobody knew what was wrong with them, and they had the prayer session, they had the holy water sprinkling, and they got better. So I grew up with possibilities that you don't have to rely just on pharmaceuticals or the doctor. So when I come across, like, the thing that I spend a lot of my years on is something called theta healing, and that works on energy medicine. And I saw amazing healings happen through that modality. And then of course I met Dr. Joe, who is a scientist, and he does quantum medicine. And I spend a lot of time around him and his clients. And I also see the power of the mind, the power of meditation, the power of visualization. And people, we call it miracles, but we call it just being supernormal. Is that getting in touch with our inner state, with our innate body's intelligence and healing capacity. And if we tune into that by being focused and allowing the body to work with our support, we are open to many miraculous healings.
I suppose, Sharada, that's a terrific lead in now for my next question for you. Is from a well-being point of view, which you obviously are very adverse in, what factors are facing Australia now?
Well, I think the most difficult part I feel that people need to deal with is this intense, what I call hypnotized fear. So everybody is no longer living their lives. they're all in fear. And fear, as we all know, is the greatest stressor in the body. And when we're stressed, the body cannot function. And that's why we're seeing more and more people with mental issues, with emotional issues, with family issues, with everything, because it all stems down to the way we feel about life. And if we feel fearful of being alive, then we really haven't got much else, Simon. And so that's why I encourage people that come across, my clients, we need to deal with fear, because fear holds us, keeps us contracted, doesn't allow us to live life. And we only have one life, Simon, and we need to do something with it, not just live in one corner in total fear. And that's the problem I see in Australia, in the whole world, really, is that we are so afraid of this COVID business that we don't allow our intelligence, our common sense to see that these things are like, it comes and goes like everything else, and there's going to be mutations upon mutations. So are we going to allow this little mutating bug to run our lives, instead of we taking charge of ourselves, making sure that our immune system is strong, that our mental state is good, our emotional state is good? And if we look after those aspects, and our spiritual self is also nurtured, we will be on top of those things. We know that even the flu that, that in the 1900s, where that horrible flu that killed so many people, we as a race, as humans, we survived. And right now, with all those things that are happening around us, we will also survive. So don't let fear take over our lives, Simon.
No, I totally agree, Sharada, and I think what you say is very, very relevant to today and the people that live today. I think you're spot on. But one last question I would like to ask is wellbeing health retreats. You teach what you talk about to people that need help. Can you perhaps touch on how you help people and what great opportunities are on offer with Wellbeing Health Retreats in 2022?
Well, of course, we're very excited now that we are in Tasmania, because Tasmania, as a place, I mean, it is peaceful and it's got lots of fresh air, and people are more slow in everything. People are not rushed and stressed. There's no traffic jam left, right, and center. I mean, I'm sitting here for the last hour. I think there's been one car that's passed me on the road.
Lovely.
So
You are very lucky. I think 1,000 cars have passed me.
so from that perspective, it's already, we're already in front. So the environment here is very supportive to de-stressing and rebalancing. And so at our retreats, we make sure that wherever we have it, like the venue, we make sure that the venue supports what we want to share with our clients. And we make sure that we teach our clients simple skills that will help them to rebalance their emotions, rebalance the way they think. So we look at their mental aspect as well, and we teach them how to get more clarity, how to be coherent between the heart and the mind. Because you see, what happens to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, is that when we were emotionally triggered, it's like it disconnects our thinking brain, and so we miss out on the clarity of thinking, and we make decisions when we are angry or when we're upset, without really the clarity of the thinking mind. It's all based on emotions and confusion and all that. So we teach people in our retreat how to manage this when they find themselves in a space where they're triggered, where they're frustrated or angry or sad, or any of those emotions, Simon, that stresses the body. And as we all know, this the feelings are purely levels of chemicals in the body. And I think very few people understand this. It's science. It's not just a concept. It is science. They know that there are molecules of emotions. Okay. So all these chemicals, and they are triggered by the way we think. So if we think that the world is a dangerous place, we are continually producing the stress chemicals of fear. And so when we get our participants to understand that and to practice how to rebalance their emotions and to understand that they are all CEOs of the chemical factory of the
Yeah.
body. So just knowing that, Simon, I find that there is so much more in almost like a sense of relief in our clients, that they have got such a grand capacity to be able to help themselves. And we teach people self-mastery skills. We teach people how to be happy, how to manage their stress, how to deal with the unexpected, because life is full of that,
Yes.
unexpected happenings, and how to turn within when there's too much chaos there, to how to give themselves a minute, Simon, a minute of reconnecting with the wisdom of their hearts and the clarity of their minds, so that they can respond to life instead of, you know, reaction automatic from
Yeah.
from all their past things. So that's what we help people to do. And of course, we serve them with wonderful vegetarian meals, and we teach them how to look after their bodies in terms of doing detoxing, because the body is like a car. We need to service the body as well as, our mental capacity, our emotional capacity, the physical capacity also needs to be looked at. So we encourage people to detox their bodies at least once a year. You go to the mechanic, you change the oil in your car at least once a year. In my car, I have to do it twice a year. So our body deserves to be attended to be serviced at least once a year. So we offer all of that in our retreats, Simon.
No, it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I'm just looking at the time here. We've ran a little bit over, but we've had such a fascinating talk. Sharada, if there was one message that you'd like to give to the audience, what would it be?
That we are powerful beings. That this magnificent spirit that is in this human body, having this human adventure. Everything changes around us, but that magnificent spirit, that pure consciousness, the real us, that sees through these eyes, we want to connect with that part of us. And there are so many wonderful things out there that helps us with mindfulness, with the mind, EFT, emotional freedom technique, that helps us to rebalance our emotions. They're all simple techniques that we can apply in our lives every day to help us to remain connected to this magnificent spirit that we are. That is my
Thank you
message.
very much, Sharada. And my big takeaway from today, Simon, is mindfulness. Just being aware of what's happening to you and around. And thank you, Sharada, for giving your personal story. I think it was so heartfelt. I could feel the emotion of how you're going through, traveling through your journey. Um, so, Simon, what was your main insights out of today's talk?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking, Tony. I think for me, it was, well, personally, I think I could sit and listen to Sharada for hours on end. I think what she
Right.
shares, uh, what she shares is remarkable, and I think we all need that little pick me up from time to time. So thank you, Sharada. But what I got out of it today was dealing with fear. I think allowing the body to be able to, through common sense, to be able to deal with it, I think was nugget that I got out of today from Sharada. So I really appreciate that, Sharada. And like I said, I think I could sit here all day and listen to you, but I just wanted to thank you and a little gift which we offer most of our guests that come on. Now the problem is that I've just heard that you guys are in Tasmania, so with no fear whatsoever, I'll be sitting down a little bit later and I'll eat these on behalf of you.
Good on you, Simon. Very considerate.
No, make sure you share that with Naomi, won't you?
No, look, I really appreciate it, and like I said, you know, it's always an absolute pleasure listening to you, Sharada, and I love every minute. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Simon, would you like to do the honours and close off our show today?
Yeah, no, look, again, thanks, Sharada, for coming on. We have a magnificent guest coming up not next week, but the week after, in 2 weeks' time. And I'm going to leave it as a secret this time. I'm not.
Oh, that's good. I love secrets.
Yeah, so I'm not going to divulge who it is, but all I will say is that this person is remarkable, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to interviewing this person along with yourself, Tony. So tune in a fortnight's time when we have our 39th episode. Oh, sorry, 33rd. I apologise.
33rd, that's 3 11s.
Episode, and it will be just as great as it was today. So again, thanks, Sharada. Really appreciate you and the message that you brought to us and our community today. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.
Bye.